Before we start, tell me which country you're watching from, because this story, it's one of those moments when karma shows up wearing cowboy boots. If you've ever dealt with a nosy, entitled HOA Karen who thought your property was her playground, then buckle up. This one ends with hooves, horns, and a whole lot of regret. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another insane HOA revenge story. It all started on a quiet Saturday morning. The air was still cool, the sky clear, and the narrator, a hard-working man who'd spent his whole life running a small family farm, was just getting ready to start his chores. He'd inherited the land from his grandfather, and it sat just outside the boundaries of a newly developed subdivision that had popped up a few years back. Unfortunately, with that subdivision came the HOA and, of course, its self-appointed queen, Karen. Karen had never liked that her fancy neighborhood bordered a real working farm. She thought the sight of tractors and animals ruined the aesthetic of the community. Over the years, she'd complained about the smell of hay, the sound of roosters, even the color of his barn. But the farmer had learned to ignore her. After all, his land wasn't under HOA control. That didn't stop Karen from acting like it was. Every few weeks, she'd show up uninvited, trying to tell him what he could and couldn't do. When that didn't work, she tried to have the HOA board send notices of violation, which he quickly tore up. The county backed him up each time. He was within his rights. The HOA had no authority over him. But that only made Karen angrier. And then came the picnic. It was a warm spring afternoon when the farmer noticed movement near the far end of his pasture. At first, he thought it was just hikers cutting across his land. It happens sometimes. But when he drove his ATV closer, what he saw made his blood boil. There, in the middle of his fenced grazing field, were half a dozen people, lawn chairs, coolers, blankets, even a Bluetooth speaker blasting pop music. They were having a full-on picnic right in the middle of his property. And standing proudly among them, drink in hand, was Karen. Apparently, she told her friends that the open field behind her neighborhood was perfect for gatherings. She had even shared the access gate code she'd seen him punch in once when she was snooping around the fence. What she didn't know was that the field wasn't empty. It was home to 2 large bulls kept in a separate pen at the far end of the pasture. The bulls were usually calm, but they were territorial, and they didn't take kindly to strangers walking through their space, especially not with loud music and picnic baskets. The farmer didn't lose his temper. Not yet. He simply turned his ATV around, rode back to the main gate, and locked it. Then he made sure every exit was secured. No way out without his say-so. He went back to the barn and watched from a distance through his binoculars. Karen and her friends were laughing, eating, and taking selfies. They didn't even notice the danger nearby. The bulls, however, did. One of them started pacing. The other lowered his head, pawing at the dirt. The farmer waited. When the group's music got louder, the bulls began to move closer. It wasn't long before one of Karen's friends spotted them and froze. The laughter stopped. People stood up, confused, trying to decide what to do. But the bulls were already charging. Not at full speed, but enough to make a statement. Karen screamed, grabbed her bag, and started running. Her friends scattered in every direction, climbing on hay bales and scrambling toward the fence. The bulls didn't actually attack. They just stopped halfway and just stood there, snorting and stamping, guarding their field. But to the trespassers, it was pure chaos. The farmer let them panic for a few minutes before driving his ATV back out. When Karen saw him approaching, her face turned pale. Her friends were yelling, demanding he open the gate, accusing him of being crazy. But the truth was, they had trespassed, and he had every legal right to protect his property. He made them wait a while longer before finally unlocking the gate. By then, Karen's perfect picnic had turned into a scene of utter humiliation. Grass stains, torn clothes, and one guy had even lost his shoe in the mud. Word spread fast. The story made its way through the HOA in less than a day. Karen tried to spin it, claiming she didn't know it was private property, that it was just a misunderstanding. But the farmer had everything on camera. His security system had caught her entering the gate, and the footage of her running from the bulls was priceless. He sent a copy to the sheriff's department, along with a trespassing report. The deputies paid Karen a visit that week, issuing her a warning and a fine for unauthorized access and property damage. But the real punishment came later. When the HOA board found out she had lied, claiming she had gotten permission for the picnic, they suspended her from her position. She'd embarrassed the entire community and made them a laughingstock. Neighbors whispered about her for months. Every time someone saw a bull in a field, they joked about Karen's picnic. The HOA even changed their gate codes and policies after that. All thanks to her little adventure. As for the farmer, life went back to normal. His bulls became local celebrities. People joked that they were better security than any alarm system. The farmer even put up a new sign on the gate: "Private property, trespassers will be met by the bulls." It became a bit of local legend. Kids would ride their bikes past just to take pictures of the sign. Karen, meanwhile, kept her distance. She sold her house later that year and moved to another HOA a few towns over. Rumor had it she told people she had been harassed by a dangerous farmer, but everyone knew the truth. Sometimes the universe doesn't need fancy punishments or drawn-out arguments. Sometimes it just takes a simple reminder that when you treat other people's property like your own, nature has a way of teaching you manners. And that is exactly what happened to Karen. So that's the story of how an HOA Karen learned that a farm isn't a public park and that bulls don't take kindly to picnics. Tell me which country you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe for more insane HOA and Karen revenge stories. Because sometimes karma wears horns.